All right, here we go. Tuesday night team call, Sparta Nation. I am so excited about this call. And Vito, this is kind of this is a big deal for us because I don't think we've ever had a male coach by themselves do our team call. So you're our first. It's a big deal. Woo! Last weekend we had Chad and Summer Tucker talk, and they have such a great story. And they were our first husband and wife outside our team that shared with us. So that was kind of our first male experience. And now we have really stepped up our game. We're just going to you. We're not messing around anymore. We're just going to the all male, and we are excited to hear from you. And I was sharing with the team earlier that you come from that fitness perspective. So you've built this incredible superstar diamond Beachbody team, and yet you've got this fitness perspective as well. And you gave such a great talk at leadership about confidence. And of course, that's such a core piece of building our business and building our life, really. And so I was hoping that you would share that with us tonight and give us a little bit of your story, your fitness perspective, a little bit of what you shared with us at leadership, and then anything else that you have in your heart that's kind of in your wheelhouse right now that you just want to share. We would love to hear, and they are ready to take notes. So if you're ready, I'm going to mute myself because they don't need to hear from me. They just want to hear from you, and I'm going to let you take over.
Cool. No, first off, Julie, thank you so much. I actually appreciate the invite. It's rare that I kind of do these things, but I'm like, Julie's always a classy woman. She runs a classy team, so I'm willing to carve out some time for Julie, absolutely. So you guys have an amazing leader. You all better like recognize that and stick tight to what she's teaching you, because she's obviously gone very far and she can take all of you to the height of your dreams. Now, if you guys are cool, when I was thinking about when Julie was like, hey, would you share some of the stuff about the conference that you did? I was like, for sure, but I'm going to express and share it in a slightly different way because I'm preparing for my Super Saturday talk in April. So I've carved up some things different to teach on something I call the 7 layers of clarity that allow you to confidently achieve any big dream you have every year without fail. Are you cool if I share it to you in that way? Little thumbs up, boom, cool. You're in the right place if you're looking to be like, I want to take my team, my business, my mindset to the next level. And I think that's where all growth truly first happens, is first in our minds before it happens in our businesses, before it happens anywhere else. So let's get ready to tackle into that. It's cool. 1 minute, I'll show you guys my freaking story. So you're like, why did I even listen to this dude? Who is he? We don't know about men in Beachbody. It's hilarious. Da-da-da. So about if I go all the way back, my story, I came out of college. I was a Wall Street institutional trader, working on Wall Street, thinking that was going to be my mission, my passion and whatnot. But after X amount of years of watching people willing to stab other people for the quarter of a spread just to make money, I was just like, this ain't my gig. I can't be doing this. I actually care about other human beings. I think we can spread the wealth. So I left after years of just, making way too much money too young and living the wrong lifestyle at that same time, but still having some values as to being like, this ain't my gig. So I actually found Calvin Klein. I worked for Calvin Klein for a number of years. I was in the fashion industry because, I don't know, I think fashion is a cool artistic expression of who we are and whatnot. So I was just like, I like this. I'm going to do this. Then I was like, these people are really plastic. There really is not much going on in here. This doesn't sound like where I want to be. And I wandered for a couple of years, bouncing between my sister's business. We owned a restaurant, this and that. So I was always somewhere in the small business entrepreneur world. But then I kind of did this exercise that I think is really valuable that we all do. You guys have probably already done something like this. But I stopped and I simply asked myself, what is the thing I'd be doing that I love, whether I was going to get paid for it or not? I just had a blank piece of paper and I started writing out. And everything had to do with the gym. I was an athlete my whole life, from tennis, basketball, cross country. So I was just like, I just loved being in the gym. And I loved writing because I was a writer back in that time. I still write. But I was like, so if that's my thing, now how do I go about achieving that? How do I go about and make that happen? So that was something that kind of leads into where we're going to go with a little bit of a formula that I'm going to share with you guys about when you finally do set a dream on your plate, how do you go about making it happen? We're going to unpack that in a couple seconds. But I went through being a trainer and I was in the trenches. I loved that whole world. But then I got shipped out to California from New York to help turn a club around out here. And we would turn that club around. It was crunch back in the day. And it was awesome until Bally's stepped in and bought them out. And all of a sudden, it was a culture shift. It was a big culture shift. And I learned this business lesson of, if you do not know your audience, how bad the business can go. Because think about it, Bally's was a very cheap, inexpensive, dirt cheap mindset. Do we know a lot of Beachbody coaches that way? Do we know other people that run their businesses that way? That you just look at some of the way they put their business out there, and then you look at the Beachbody coaches out there that are teaching values, teaching discovery, teaching lessons, and really positioning them in a different way. That's going to be important as we look at how do we start at this critical point. Where are we? 400,000 some odd coaches now? I think a little bit more. How do we start standing out in a sea of sameness now, so that we can still be pulling in challengers, coaches, and all that, in particular when we look at social media? So we started to have to kind of we'll get to that lesson in a second, but I was kind of like, you know what? I can't work for this company because of the culture change. And I had started to bring on other services. I started to build a business on the outside, and they kind of told me that, hey, if you're doing stuff on the outside, you can't be working in here. This still goes on in gyms today, which is one of my crusades in the fitness industry to take down. Because imagine the idea of crushing the entrepreneurial spirit. It's imagine when somebody was doing that to you, telling you guys as entrepreneurs and business owners, you can't go do other things. It's not going to fly well. People will revolt on that. But so in essence, overnight, when I wasn't willing to do that, they fired me. Number one trainer in the facility, averaging like $15,000 a month in personal training. But I'm not a believer in dogma. So I was just like, hey, I'm not in conflict of interest. All my training is in here. And they were like, too bad. Cool. I went and started a business overnight, and I built up to a studio. I mean, I was in my garage. I was in an apartment building all the way until I finally got to the size where I could open up a studio. And I built that studio up. I had a business partner, but I didn't know the difference yet back then between technician and business partner. Very different things. And a bad business buyout. And about 6 years ago now, 7 years ago now, overnight, just time I had to sign that paperwork, I was $105,000 in debt. I had to short sell my house in the middle of that whole fiasco that was going on there because we had used the house to do the business. It was just bad. But that was also the day that I started to decide when I'm like, you know what, I'll never be in this situation again. Nobody will ever out hustle me. I won't know business. I won't know marketing. I won't know anything as to be in this kind of a situation again. So what do I got to learn to never be here again? And I set on a path of just constant development of this formula I'm about to share with you. And now flash forward to now, not only do I have this Beachbody business, but I have a whole entire other brand teaching business and marketing, and in particular to the fitness industry. But in the space of 6 some odd years, $105,000 in debt to just last year hitting Millionaires Club. Not a bad turnaround for 6 years and whatnot. It's not the best, and it's not to say it to be like, woohoo. It's just, you can do the same no matter what adversity you have, no matter what challenge you're going through. You can do the same when you've got a plan on how to do it. So it starts with, and I know we've talked about this a million times, because I look at where does lack of confidence often come from. It's just there's a few little elements that are missing for people. Number one is just, do you have clarity of your why, your mission, your purpose? But now that's been said, I don't know if you guys listened to when I was on the National Wake Up Call when I talked about that. So I talked about that a little bit. If you were at leadership, you saw it at the confidence ladder. There's actually a recording of it, Julie. So if you remind me, I can actually give you the link to the recording of that and share that with you guys. But it almost becomes like people get so overwhelmed with the idea of, I don't have this giant mission. I don't have this big purpose yet. And then they feel like something's wrong with me. And you're like, that's not the case, because maybe you did find your mission and your purpose. Congratulations. Very few people actually do. Because if you look at it, we're all constantly in an evolutionary state. So how can that mission stay just solid? I look at it now as I'm like, versus if you're struggling, like I do, like I found the missions and the purposes that I want, but I tie those really to the messages I want to share. And the messages are something that we could all get behind. We could all be like, I can get behind messages that I create. Like I always use the example, I'm like, listen, like one of the messages I'm always teaching is the idea of living a high performance life and gaining that skill set. That's the differentiator in financial life, business, happiness, all that. Do I have that skill set, and what does that mean? So I take that message, and I'm then like, my mission is to be like, well, I go to the fitness center. I was a trainer. I was broke. I remember what those days were like. And I'm like, and too many trainers that I believe are healthcare today. So versus being a trainer, the way I turned it to mission purpose was, no, we're healthcare. And healthcare isn't working right now. So what I'm going to do is do my part to take trainers that are struggling with their finances, learn how to grow their businesses bigger. Because if I teach them how to grow their businesses bigger, then they're going to impact more lives. If they impact more lives, we won't need more people in healthcare. There'll be less people on prescription meds, less people needing to go to the doctor. We'll bring down malpractice. We'll bring down freaking the pharmaceuticals. We'll bring down all that. So there is where you all of a sudden take a simple message that you have and just keep on being like, how do I leverage this into a mission? I typically tell people, I'm like, look at where you might see an injustice in something. And you want to just be like, you know what? I want to take that on. I want to go do something about that. So that you're like, okay, I can manage that. I see parents always looking after, I want to change the education system. Teachers want to change the education system. You look at what's happening in the world where people are trying to change Wall Street and government. Very simple on a grassroots level. Just take a message you have and put it in there. The reason we have to start there though, ladies, gentlemen, whoever ends up listening to the call, is the fact that like life is gonna come try to distract you. Distraction is costing us our dreams. And if you're not emotionally attached to the mission and the message, it's just going to get lost in distraction, overwhelm, inconvenience, and all the things that stop us from truly going out there and achieving that big vision, mission thing that we have. So before we can even get, because I watch a lot of coaches go after their goals and their dreams and they put them down on their vision boards and they started actions. And I'm like, wrong. Actions isn't the first step, because you could start taking actions before you do this stuff that we're doing right now, and you could be doing all the wrong things in all the wrong directions, and you're just speeding to a worse cliff than if you're like, hold on a sec. First, let me get clear on why I want this, what this means, how this relates to the quality of my life, to the kids, to am I building something I'm going to leave behind? Am I giving back? Am I being a change agent? All those elements. Don't be afraid to allow yourselves to like bounce. Where like, I'm like, when I was a studio owner, my mission was to provide the best studio I could back then and change that community, but that's no longer. And if I was kind of that person that's just like, oh man, I'm no longer doing that, and I'm down on myself and I'm doubting, and now am I going up? I'm like, bounce, dude. That was it. Be resilient. It's over. That time passed. Move on to the next thing. You got to learn how to shut the doors on the past and make sure you're not being weighed down by anything in the past. So, number one there. Number two, you got to get clarity of those goals and that vision. I know that sounds like common sense, but what's common sense is not often common practice. So, a lot of people don't actually have clear goals. So, did you, this time of year, sit down and do your yearly planning? And I mean like yearly planning to the point of like, where we're going to break some of these things down. Like I just led 180 some odd people in my other brand through something we call the Best Year Ever Planner, where we're walking them through like all the things that you need. And this is a little breakdown of it. But when you got those goals, because I listen to coaches be like, I want to be 5-star elite. I'm like, that's awesome. When? When is the missing question? What's the time sensitive to that? And then I always add a question of why. Why is that important to you? You got to give meat and emotion to these kind of goals. Otherwise, again, The minute distraction, doubt, delay, anything that comes in, you're going to put them aside because you don't feel them in your bones. They're not what pumps the blood through your heart. So you got to make sure that you're like, okay, I'm understanding what I got to do when I want it by. Is it inspiring enough for you? Is it challenging enough for you so that you're willing to love the grind as you go through? And do you have that person that's kind of in the ring with you? Like, besides my wife, like, I'm blessed to have like Trina as my business partner in this venture. And her and I have our own little, just like, I mean, we have our little, just like, we could do this across the room where we're like, and we know we're thinking global fitness domination. We don't even have to say each other anything more. We're like, we're on it. And that's just enough, again, emotional, giddy weirdness that keeps the business fun, that ties us back to, we know the goal, we know the mission, we know why we're doing this. And it's always our connection. If you have that person in your business, you want to definitely try to do that. Just look at your strategic partners, look at the people that can do that with you. Because when the going gets tough, you need somebody that is going to come in there and help remind you about why you're being challenged, why you're trying to inspire other people to make this difference, why it matters in a certain time, because otherwise you'll just keep pushing. Another reason you got to be time sensitive is, here's the thing. If you're like, I want to be 5-star in the next year. Well, if you're at the midway point and you're still sitting at like diamond or 1-star, you can evaluate based upon the fact that you're like, I have 6 months left and I just had 6 months go by. What was I not doing in 6 months? And what do I need to change? Because otherwise I'm completely have no metric, no measuring stick to be like, was I doing stuff that was working? Was I not? I was doing stuff that was working. Can I amplify now? Can I turn it up if I want to make this goal move faster? We need a timeline on that. Otherwise, you just have no measuring stick. Make sense? Cool. This is the one that I watch people leave off all the time. You got to get clarity of your roadblocks. What are the roadblocks in the way? You have to be honest about the things that are in the road. If you don't take the time to identify what's in your way, you're just going to kind of keep smashing your head into the wall and wondering why it's not getting there. Like an example, like if you don't know that, like I was working with a coach and the roadblock is lack of scheduling. It's not that she doesn't have goals. It's not that whatever. It just never makes the calendar. And I'm literally like, until you change that, it doesn't make a difference what you go do. That's the roadblock. So let's handle that roadblock. And then we're going to be able to open up you marching towards your dreams. Because if you don't clear that, to this day, I don't know a single person that has achieved high level of success and was just like, I randomly do shit. I just hope it falls into place. I wish it falls into place. No, they figured out productivity. They figured out blocking out time. They figured out scheduling. And even if you have to use triggers, you know, I'm a big, like, everything triggers on the phone. Like when I was teaching people about, like, have more confidence, I'm literally like, how about you just put a reminder at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Be more confident. And it pops up so that if your morning was all off the rails, you're like, be more confident. Right, I'm working on being more confident. Working on being more confident. The whole afternoon could go off the rails, but at 3 p.m. pops up, be more confident. All right, I can bail out the evening at least. So you're like, I'm setting up protective measures. I'm all about protective measures, so you got to just start blocking out. The coach was just working on something. I'm like, can you just take out your phone? What time are you not with the kids? What time are the kids sleeping? That 12. Perfect. Can you put in work, beach, body, business at that time? Yes? Oh, look at this. Roadblock of lack of productivity and scheduling is it's people like want these mysterious pills and enigmas and answers. And you're like, no, man, some of it is just find the roadblock, get out of the way. Like when I was coming up, I had my studio business and I had my beach body business. And I saw the beach body business quickly outpacing what the studio was ever going to be able to do. But for years, because I still hadn't gained the skill of letting go of that mission, I was like, no, my studio, I can't let it go yet. I'm going to dig this out. And it became the roadblock. Because as I started to learn this business and I started to learn how to build online brands and funnels, and I'm a big nerd in that whole world, that I'm like, I can't carve out the time, be around the people, and invest in the skills, which we're about to get to, to become excellent at that, because I'm still carving out time in the studio. The studio is my roadblock, and it's just not returning the way I'd hoped. So I had to, once I got clarification on that, I was able to be like, set an exit strategy. Give me 1 year. Here's how I'll transition out. Here's what I'll do. When I let go of that, every year since that, it's been a doubling of the income in all the other avenues. So get clear on what are the things that are in your way, so you can set a plan to be like, I'm gonna knock those mofos out of the way because they're sitting right there. 1 to 3 of them. You don't need to be like, I'm gonna try to knock out 25 roadblocks this year. 1 to 3 that look like they're in the way of those goals that you just wrote down that are attached to that mission that you're gonna have. That's why we do them in this order. From mission to goals to roadblocks. Then you look at what are the clarity of your strengths. What are the strengths that you got? Because how much more fun is business, anything really, when you're doing it to things that you're good at or that you love doing? You're just going to enjoy it more. This business is about fun. Life is about fun. We should be enjoying every freaking moment of it that we can. Don't do stuff that you hate. That's where you learn how to do outsourcing and all that other stuff like that. But there's a bigger reality that the world doesn't pay top dollar, world-class dollars for mediocre. It doesn't pay for the 4, 5, and 6s. It pays that for the 8, 9s, and 10s. Mozart didn't try to be like, I'm going to be good at the piano and the cello. I mean, well, he was at the piano, the cello, the flute, the pan flute, the freaking this and that. He's like, 1, this is my strength. I'm going to go to this because then, I don't know if you've ever read Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point, and you know the 10,000 hour rule about it takes 10,000 hours to become a master or anything. Well, those years are coming. Either you're aiming it at your strengths so you can get to that 8, 9, 10, or you're aiming it all over the place trying to stopgap things. And then you're still always going to be playing in that mediocre space. And you'll be okay, but you're not going to command top dollar. Everybody on this call can command top dollar. You've got a plan on how to go after it. Now it's just like, am I going to start paying attention to these things and going all in on them? So we're going all in on those strengths. Figure out what they are. Like, I know on our team, I'm like, I'm not good at the recognition, the interview stuff. That's Trina. I'm like, that's your strength. That goes like a journalist. She's like, well, I can come up with anything on a dime, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, cool. I'm like, me, I teach high performance and marketing. So I'm like, I build all of our marketing systems. I turned all of our programs into an app. I built an app software. I do all the sides. And she's like, you talk to me about any of that system shit, I will freaking punch you. So I'm like, good, I'll do that and teach high performance. You do this, and we figured out our strengths. And it's why we can jam the way we do. Because we know our strengths and we play into them. Get some clarity on those, and you guys are going to freaking crush it. Next one. Now that you know your strengths, you know what the roadblocks are. You know what the goals are going to be. You know what the vision is, right? Now it's time to look at what are the skills I need right now. Right now. I have such a beef with random personal development that I can sometimes get people mad because I'm like, that's awesome, feel good personal development. But I'll give you an example. Like, people come to me a lot about marketing, right? So they're like, well, I want to know, I don't know how to put out that blog, put up that thing. I'm like, what book are you reading right now? And they're like, You Are a Badass. I'm like, does You Are a Badass teach you anything about how to put up a blog or copywriting or anything like that? No. Why are you reading that right now? That doesn't get you any closer to the goal that you want, which is to take your message and amplify it by blogging so you can automate and scale your message. And then you're wondering why you're not getting there. Here's simple. Isn't it ridiculous when you just start breaking these things down? You're like, dang, yeah, this is kind of a lot easier. There ain't no goal I can't set up now that I can't march down, because now you're going to be like, if you know what those goals were, you know what the roadblocks were, the strengths were, now you can start being like, I can either go find out the skills I need to learn. And if I don't know where to look, that's what a mentor's for. That's what a coach is for. You ask somebody. You do some research. There's this thing called Mr. Goobs now. You're like, Mr. Goobs, tell me what the heck is going on. And then you just start freaking typing away in there. Things will pop up. It's just, I watch people doing too much random personal development versus aiming it at the skill set that they need right now.
Hey, Vito,
Yeah.
I'm gonna chime in on that for a second, because that is brilliant, and that's exactly the advice that Jeff Hill gave me not that long ago when he and I were chatting about, he's like, what are you reading? And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, okay, that's nice, but is that getting you to where you want to be? And it was the exact same, and it wasn't technical like building a blog. It was, it aligned with my goals. And, the point he made was, you can read the other stuff sometimes or occasionally or before you go to bed, for that kind of lift up, feel good, motivational, that kind of stuff. And what I had been reading was a John Maxwell book, which I love. And that's great, except you probably already have that. So how about we're reading something that's more aligned with your goals? It's probably a little heavier, maybe a little more challenging, maybe a little harder, and you stay away from that sometimes because it is a little bit harder. And so when I made the deal with myself that, all right, I'll do that harder stuff, and then in exchange, I can also read a little bit of this too. It's not necessarily all or nothing, but why am I sticking with the stuff I already know? Why am I not reading the stuff that's in line with my goals? So I love that you talked about that.
It's, I love that. Jeff Hill, smart guy.
He's so smart.
He's one of my favorites, guys. He's one of my favorites at corporate. Why we're doing this, and it's why, remember how I was talking about, like, are the goals going to be inspiring, challenging enough for you and all that? And are you going to be emotionally attached to the mission? Because when it is something like that is harder reading, it is like, that's where the person wants to put that off. Like, coaches all the time in particular, one of the skills I teach in our high performance stuff is persuasion and influence, how to create persuasion and influence. And they're like, how do I read more about that? And I'm like, it's deep psychology. And I'm like, I'm a nerd. So I've read Robert Cialdini, I've read Maxwell Maltz, I've read this and that. I'm like, I sit around because I decided that skill of persuasion and influence matters like this right here. Because I'm like, I need to know how to be able to take my message and what I want to teach and what I want to impart and stop one-on-one and go one-to-many. Being like, I remember you guys weren't there, but Julie, you remember when I shared the story about the first time I was ever on stage and I was a disaster, pacing like an animal, and it was just like vomiting, kind of. People were like, it was horrible. But that was the day that I recognized I want to know how to do that. So even though it's boring, it's hard, it's challenging, but instead I was like, I'm excited to read influence. I'm excited to understand human behavior. I'll read the 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem to Daniel Brandon. I'll read all this and that because I'm like, every time that's wood chippered into the head, I'm just like, cool, that enhances the skills that directly apply to a business like this. You all have to lead a team. You all have to lead a team. If one of the skill sets or some of the skill sets on your list are not mentoring, teamwork, leadership, high performance, where are you spending your time? I would even toss in marketing, social media, sales. If you're not studying those things, at some point, there's not much more about fitness and nutrition that's going to change the world. That's coming through science. That's coming through stuff in the lab now. For us, it's how do we understand the people in front of us? How can we get them to commit and believe into their dreams? So it's a different skill set that we need to be going that I'd be looking at. That's why, like, when I got clear on this, I was like, high performance. Who's the name? Brendan Bouchard. Went and studied under him. Became one of his certified high performance coaches. So I could take that and then be like, cool, now I can go give this to our team. Now this is a new skill set I can put into the team. When I had to learn marketing, Ryan Dykes, etc., launch Jeff Walker. When you know what you want, the skills, you can then be like, okay, now that I know the skills I know the people I need to go find. I wish, like we call it the circle of genius, no man is an island, and no person has ever said, this has never been said in the history, I did it by myself. Nobody. Not a single person that has ever achieved a high level of success has ever said I did it alone.
I'm high-fiving you through the computer right now. I'm high-fiving you. I mean, I can't tell you how much I love that. I say that all the time. No one ever says that. And it doesn't matter whether you have a, in this business, an active upline coach or someone who's actively mentoring you, at some point in your life, you've been inspired, challenged, pushed, coached, taught by someone that's gotten you one step further, one rung on the ladder up a little bit further. Nobody does any of this by themselves, and especially in this business. And that's one of, I think, the most beautiful pieces about it, is that we do get to work with so many amazing people and operate in our strengths and find the people that complement us. And we don't have to do it on our own. That is what's so beautiful about it.
It's built on the back of the many.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you're linked together, the better it's going to be. We're going to talk let's say something a little bit about culture. I remember, it's funny because Julie had mentioned something to me, and Trina and I were having the literal same discussion this week about a culture thing, which we'll talk about. But here's the thing. Not all people in pursuit of your dreams are created equal. I don't mean as in bad people. I mean as in just, again, aimed personal development, aimed environment. Like when I wanted to learn about product launches, Jeff Walker was the guy I needed to go find. I needed to be in his room, his mastermind, his coaching group, to the point of getting ridiculously uncomfortable to get in that room. Because back then I didn't have what he was asking for to be in his freaking coaching group. It was a $14,000 roll of the dice. But in 30 days, it paid off. When you know who to put yourself in a room with, all these things, like the whole, I don't know how to do it, I don't know what to do, goes away. Because you got somebody there that's just like, I've been doing this for like years, decades, whatever it is. Just do this, just do that. It's a ridiculous difference. And then you're never going to feel like that fear, that worry. And that's a big thing that stops coaches: fear, worry, doubt. But a lot of that comes from, I don't know what to do, how to do it, who to ask, why am I doing it? You got the formula here now to just be like, anything you want, just plug it right in here. You're scared to leave the team call? Cool. You're going to sit in with this coach and they're going to talk to you about how they schedule a call, how they come up with a little format for it. Everything can be taught and learned, but only if, all the way back at the top, it matters enough to you to start going through setting that goal, figuring out why there's something in the way of it, what are you good at that you can use during that, so you're playing to your strength, to then be like, I need to learn this skill, who's the person that can teach me? Done. That takes fear and just knocks it out of the park, and then all of a sudden you can drop into clarity of action. Now you know what action steps you could take, because now you can start writing on your thing like, look up person's mastermind group, get this book, take this 8-week course, reach out to this many coaches. That now you can break down into actions because you got clarity of all those other things that are out there. But if you start the actions, you'll just find there's not alignment in those other things, and then it's going to start to break down on you. Or you just wake up and you're like, I'm not nearer to what I thought, or I'm not happy with what I did, or there's just dissatisfaction with it. We can do something about that when we use this kind of a simple form. Does that make sense? Does that help you guys be like, dude, anything I want to tee up, I'm going to be able to just put it through that formula and knock it out. And knock it out. And this, what's great is, I'm a big believer of we learn best by teaching. I talk about that in the confidence ladder in the video, where I'm like, if you really want to gain confidence, go teach to others. So take this little 7 steps, go share it with your team. Go take them through it. Take a coach through it. Start practicing, because the first couple times you do it, you're going to kind of bumble. You'd be like, I think it was this. Just be like, here's the name. Here's the point of it. Here's an example of it. Boom. Now, ask them the question. What's yours? Ask them, what are your strengths? What's a roadblock in your way? Who do we need to help you meet? What personal development do we need to aim you at? And all of a sudden, you're using the question process to let them take ownership of finding their own solutions versus you having to cradle them. Then they're going to grow that way. Make sense? Cool. Couple things, just random stuff that I want to share with you guys, because I think this is important messaging just all out in the Beachbody world, is, so we were talking about National Leaders Conference just happened, and Trina and I were, or National Leaders, New Leaders, whatever it was. Trina and I were looking at and talking about the 10 coaches of ours that went there. We were like, man, what's the common thread to all of those people? And when you strip away all of it, there was just two common threads. They were like, they were the ones that did the training programs that we have as if it was oxygen, as if they needed it to live. Every day, every post, everything. They showed up. Every freaking coaching call. The minute they were like through it and advanced enough, they were like, how can I help teach some of these training groups? Oh, there's that lesson coming right back around. Best people go back and want to contribute and teach with the team. They don't just rely on the top of the pyramid to teach the stuff. They start practicing, because one day the organization is going to be big enough that you have to be in charge of where your organization is. So we looked at that. Man, these were the coaches that were literally doing the training like oxygen. And then we looked at the fact that, like, these are the coaches that drank the Kool-Aid, if you will. They were deep into the culture of the team. They didn't hang on the periphery. They weren't the in and outs. They weren't the, like, I check in once in a while. They were like, they made friends. They made connections. They formed up their own little teams. They set up their own little gatherings. They do all that. That social connection was another common thread. So one, we have to ask ourselves, are we that? Are we doing that? Because I'm a firm believer you cannot go ask your team to do anything you do not do yourself. The fact that you're all here on a 8 o'clock, most of you probably on the East Coast and whatnot, like, that speaks volumes to who you are. So I'm preaching to the choir, but take that message to your team. Take that to your coaches and be like, you know what? And I guarantee you, you ask Julie, you ask every other coach, we'll be like, yes, those are the two differences. Because the rest is just crap you learn. After a while, how much more can I tell you about running a challenge? How much more can I tell you about freaking an objection about Shakeology? The X's and the O's, they're done. We don't have a lot. It's not like the NFL playbook here. We got a few plays. The rest is us. Who we connect with, why we do it, why it matters. So look to be like, one, can I get fully understanding that not everybody will respond to that? But you guys need another 5-10% of people responding that way. And your business goes to the next star diamond level, next leadership level, the next thing that matters to you. And those people become the next mentors, the next generation of mentors and leaders. Then that whole trickle compound effect goes on. So make sure that that messaging isn't being unsaid. It's, again, back to how I'm all about, like, purposeful triggers. I just have to always remember, like, got to talk about this with team. This is a team theme. This becomes a call. This becomes a thing. So that I'm, like, making sure that I'm not hoping somebody else says it. I'm not hoping my team figures out. We make sure that they hear about it. Standing out and getting more followers. Building your authority online. And what I was talking about before, where I was like, 400,000 some odd coaches. At this point, everybody is just like, here's my shake. Everyone's just like, here's my workout. Hey, here's my, let's do hammer and chisel. Hey, here's that. There's no differentiating factor. This happens in the training world. And the reason I'm big on this is, like, trainers just literally think their workouts are what differentiates them. At this point, Mr. Google can replace them. And the reality is that he is. Apps, technology, online programming is really putting a dent in the fit. Like, I have to talk to them about, I'm like, are you guys not watching Beachbody? Are you guys not watching the fact that a $1.3 billion company has figured out on demand? They're becoming the Netflix of fitness. Where's Blockbuster today? He's gone because he didn't look at Netflix quick enough. Well, in our fitness world, if we don't pay attention to what Beachbody's doing, fitness industry is starting to feel that. But here we got a lot of people posting the same crap all over the place. Influence isn't created by the deliverables. Hey, I've got a fitness program. It's going to come with shakes. It's going to come with this and that. It's not why people are going to follow you. Each one of you is a unique person that has figured out a way through life. You figure out a way through excuse-itis of time, money, not feeling fulfilled. Those values, those discoveries, those lessons are what are going to allow you to attract your tribe and build your authority, in particular on social media. Because you're going to teach the people that are watching you how to think. The problem with everybody in your challenges isn't just, I don't know how to do the workouts, I don't know how to freaking follow the meal plan. It's, I become overwhelmed, I procrastinate, I've got a husband that does me, I've got this going on. One of the biggest changes we did in all of our challenges is incorporate personal development through all of our challenges, and we automated that. We made that all sit in there. But if you want to start standing out, think about how you could take your posts and being like, you know what, today, instead of about my nutrition or about my fitness, not that you still don't do those things. Please understand, you still do those things, but put the right spin to your tribe. Like one of my coaches deals with busy executive moms. And I'm like, so to her, it's not the nutrition. What she cares about is the fact that she is time crunched out of her mind. That's her real problem. That's the problem. The solution is the 5-minute or less recipe. So make sure you teach it from the perspective of how do you do this in 5 minutes or less so you make the board meeting? How do you do this 5 minutes or less so you can get out to your meeting and put the kids in the car? How do you do this in 5 minutes or less because you got home at 8 o'clock at night and you need to eat quick so you're not eating at 10 o'clock at night? So it's just a change of, do I know who I'm talking to and how I can reposition the content I'm putting out? Way better to be sharing things like, you know what? 5 years ago, I never would have thought I'm sitting here looking in my kids' eyes, being like, oh, it's the first day at school, I'm dropping them off, and I'm going to be here to pick them up. Because I used to work at a job that I was somebody else's clock. But today, I run my own clock. I actually don't need a clock. I'm on my own freaking life schedule. Now you're teaching a person to be like, dang, that's exactly the kind of life I want. That's how I need to think about it. Or taking things just like, you know what? 2 years ago, I would have said, I don't got the time. I got this. I got that. Da, 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 da. And then I realized that's my own bullshit. Everybody has time. I just needed to figure it out. Now you're taking things just like all the little objections and excuses and crap that people want to put out there, and you're showing them how you got through them in your story of life, in your story of this business, in your story of the people you've met. That will differentiate you from all the other coaches out there that are in your area or in your competition with you. And I say that loosely, it's just in the sense of there's a lot of people out there and you have to stand out, not as in it's a bad competition thing, but your values, your discoveries, your lessons, how can you share them? How can you go out there, teach people how to think? Because as you do that, this is the ultimate piece of where it goes. You will do the last two factors to create influence. You will consistently show up. At this point, the market expects flash in the pans everywhere. There's just so much going on. Everybody promises this. Everybody's going to do that. I'm starting a business. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Da, da, da. And most people fade out because of overwhelm, distraction, all the things that we've talked about. It's not convenient. So by you always being there, they're going to see consistency. And consistency wins in the market. Consistency wins in business and in life. But that little trickle effect of you constantly showing up, sharing what and how you're thinking and how you're getting through this life and what you're doing and all that, and how you're changing the way you look at the world and you feel about relationships, family, that, whatever it is, whatever the things are. Over time, because you guys don't give up, because you guys never give up, you simply become the success. You overcome adversity. You overcome the challenges. And all of a sudden, the days that you're there, you're like, I got it. Like, I'm happy. I figured it all out. And then people start to turn to you. How did you do that? I've been watching you for the last year, 2, 5, 10. Doesn't matter. How did you do that? Because I'm struggling with how to get through that. Then your authority is there to open the door, put your hand out, and take those people where you are. Take them from where they are to where they want to be, because you went from where you were to where you are now. Cool? That's our mission. That's what's on the plate for us to do. We have to make sure that we are that success, that we consistently show up, that we freaking are part of the team and the culture, and we drink that Kool-Aid. Fruit punch is my favorite flavor. And then we make sure that you just run that 7-step plan to always, before you take anything on, you run it right through that little system, share that with your coaches. There ain't no dream you guys cannot knock out of the park. Cool? Awesome. Any questions, thoughts, or whatever before 9 minutes before my high performance call?
I am not letting them ask questions tonight because that was such a mic drop moment right there. We are just, we can't top it. It was awesome. I've got like 6 pages of notes. Vito, that was phenomenal. It was fantastic. It was real. It was real talk. It was applicable. It was exactly what I knew we would get from you. And I'm so honored that you shared that with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm more than happy to, again, remember that this whole network is a team in itself. We're not separate teams. We're all together. We're willing to put our hands out. Keep on doing that. Anytime you're in doubt, serve. When you serve, there ain't nothing that's going to be in your way. No harm can ever come from it. Cool?
Vito LaFata, real talk right there, baby. That's awesome. I'm clapping for you. And I'm high-fiving you through the laptop. You're awesome. Awesome. Pleasure. So do you have a website, or are they just finding you on social media? They find
they can find me on social media. My website, well, if they're not in the fitness industry, VitoLaFata.com is going to be super relevant. Just find me on social media or at the Fitnesspreneur's Life.
Okay, awesome. Vito, you're awesome. We thank you so much. Have a great night. We appreciate it.
You too. Ciao, ladies.